All right. Well, thank you so much, Alina, Danielle, and Yelena for coming today. I know it's a Sunday. So I appreciate you taking time out today for this training for Go Camp, Go Global. My name is Rosie. If you did not see me in the last training, I'm that person who's always a chance to use that Rosie. Um, that Go Global came to know and love at the onset of the war. I'm based in Texas, and I'm a lead Montessori guide for 3 to 6 year olds now in Texas. So I'm a Montessori teacher, and I'm also an educational content creator, which thanks to all my volunteering and Go Camp, that's actually what springboarded me onto the path that I'm in. I've been with Go Global since 2019. And I've been living in Texas for the last 3 years. Actually, we had our 3 year anniversary at the beginning of this month. So it's
Oh,
been quite a ride.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a big deal. Texas is not an easy state to settle down in. Anyone who's moved here will all tell you that they had first 2 years is like a huge struggle. And then after that, once you get past that 2 year mark, you're usually good. So we made it out of the woods and we're on our way. But
Mm.
anyways, today we're going to talk about incorporating resilience building and positive mindset building into your lessons. In order to do that, we need to talk about the neurology, the neuroscience behind learning a second language. When we understand this, it's a lot easier to do resilience building. Now, Daniel and Elena, I'd like for you to participate today because this will be pretty interactive. And Alina, please participate as well. You're a part of this as well. Um, so
Sure.
to kickstart everything, hi Elena, it's nice to see you. Um, so what I'd like to know, oh, you can turn your mic on. What I'd like to know is what is your definition of resilience?
Okay, I guess like keep moving despite the like any struggles you're experiencing. And yeah,
Okay,
that's what comes to mind.
okay. Daniel, how about you? What is resilience to you? What does that mean?
Well, for me, it's like trying like not to give up, even if you're like really sad or you're really down, but it's like trying anyway.
Exactly, like showing up, right? You show up no matter what, right?
Hmm.
Right, great. Yelena, what is resilience to you? And if your mic is giving you trouble, you can also put it in the chat as well.
Okay, I think I got it because I switched to phone, so I'm going to fix the camera soon too, but my
Oh,
desktop
okay.
wasn't working yet. Sorry. Um,
That's okay.
so for me, I think I'll definitely second the things already said about actually like not giving up despite
Mm-hmm.
facing the struggles. But resilience for me also, at least as a psychologist, is like a set of skills because you have to practice it also because it's not really like something you're born with. I mean, there are some innate things, obviously, like survival skills and stuff. Those
Yeah.
might help you. But generally, like facing more complex struggles in life, like in the workplace or in such a context as like living in a war zone, it's also like a set of skills that you really have to learn and practice to actually be able to stay afloat.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I love that definition. So my psychology background kicked in, and everyone's before I get into that, everyone's definition is correct. That is what resilience is to you. And how you view resilience will greatly impact how you deliver resilience building exercises. So I agree with everyone. It is moving forward no matter what. It is showing up no matter what. Like one thing that I'm teaching my daughter is when she doesn't feel like going to dance practice, I say that's exactly when you need to show up, when you don't feel like doing it. It's discipline. It's almost like a discipline, too, that we forget. That's what resilience is.
Mhm.
Culturally, resilience has different meanings as well. In America, resilience is actually more, it's more affirming. I would say it's a softer view, whereas maybe in Ukraine, it's like, you know, we're fighting no matter what. Like, we got 1,000,000 people against us. No, we got 10, let's go, you know, like that's, you know, that's a definitely a different approach to resilience. You know, like in Latin America, it is a more positive mindset. It's like, hey, no matter how I'm feeling, I'm going to believe that it's going to be okay. From a psychological perspective, it's tools. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. You are already teaching your students how to be resilient by teaching a second language. So we're going to go into the neuroscience behind this. And my world changed when I was going through my own struggles. And I learned more about the nervous system. So in psychology, yes, we can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about an issue until we are blue in the face. But until we master those tools, like Elena said, and really regulate our nervous system, that resilience, it becomes compromised, unfortunately. So let's talk about how learning a second language can actually reset your nervous system. What we do is using language to build socio-emotional skills through second language acquisition and maximizing the sociocultural learning theory. Do you need to be an expert in the sociocultural learning theory? No, because you're living it. And if we get into the theory, I'm basically going to put something that you do every day just with fancy terms. So first, we're going to talk about how this really does help build a positive mindset. Then we're going to learn how to use things like Kahoot, Padlet, Mentimeter, and learn how to use these mood check-ins more effectively. We'll talk a little bit, I'll gloss over sociocultural learning theory, and then we're going to get into some more interactive activities so that you have something to walk away with when you go back to teaching your students. So how does this build a resilient mindset? Well, studies have actually shown that if someone is talking about a traumatic event that has happened in their life in their second or third language, they are more likely to be able to process that more effectively than their home language. Reason being, in their home language, there's a greater attachment to the emotions in that event. But if they are explaining it to someone with their second language, they're able to detach a little bit better and be able to look at what they went through a more a more objective point of view. Okay, so trauma survivors that are able to overcome the more potent effects of trauma, they do receive the following during and after the event: comfort, care, their experiences are validated, and they have consistency and structure. Learning a new language, if we're all second language learners or third language learners, we've all learned that you need structure and consistency. There are rules you have to follow. And when you're in a situation like a war where suddenly the rules of morality, the rule of law, the rule of economics, everything is suddenly compromised and you don't know where those lines are, learning another language actually helps your brain develop borders again. And in order for us to feel safe and secure, we need not just external borders, but internal borders as well. So by engaging in this new language, the brain and the nervous system have actually been provided an opportunity to create new parameters and safety within a linguistic context. And that's a great springboard, right? And that can be applied to their native language later on. So I'm very fortunate. I have been able to learn not just one, not two, but actually three, and I'm going to be learning a fourth language pretty soon. And learning new languages and learning how to reframe the way I speak in English has all been greatly impacted by learning these other languages. It's helped me think in a different way because language is thought. So now I know how to think in different ways. You could say I'm cognitively limber, and actually a nervous system that is flexible and has some kind of plasticity has a greater chance of surviving and overcoming trauma, aka building resilience, than the person who has a nervous system where they're stuck and rigid and not learning new things, or not neurologically or cognitively limber, if you will. So learning a new language also gives the brain an opportunity to reset itself. So we have a chance to change how we speak by learning a second language, third or fourth language, depending on how ambitious you want to get. So for instance, in Ukrainian and even in the Irish Gaelic language, you don't say I'm angry at, or I'm sad because. It's sadness is on me. That's how it'll literally translate into English. Or I'm angry on that person, or they're angry on me, or fear is on me. Well, that implies those emotions are temporary and they can be taken off at some point. And last night, my daughter, she's like, I'm afraid of the dark. And I was like, let's reframe that. How about fear is on me when I'm in the dark? And I had her figure it out. I'm like, what does it mean if fear is on you? Oh, well, I can take it off like a shirt. Yes, exactly. So I'm teaching her to no longer make the emotion her identity, but rather help her understand this is something temporary. And for those of you that had just joined, welcome. Thank you for taking time out on your Sunday to join us. We're talking about resilience and building a positive mindset. And I'm happy to have you. Thank you. Okay, so resetting the brain. What is this all about? Okay. In our native language, we've developed unhealthy mindset patterns. All of us in the room can probably agree that there's some ways we communicate about the world, see the world, that may not be the healthiest, right? There may be some pessimism in some areas, or like in English, we tend to make the emotion our identity, which is not a very healthy thing to do. So when we start learning a new language, we have an opportunity to see how that culture frames emotions, sees a new point of view of life, and then we can start applying that to our language. Just like the example I gave with like fear is on me instead of I am afraid. Unhealthy verbal expressions. This is something else that sets in our native language because we've become so comfortable with it. Maybe we weren't in the healthiest of environments. So if you're in an unhealthy environment, a lot of times our verbal expression isn't the healthiest either. So we have like repeated expressions. So for instance, in America, we have a saying, it is what it is. It means that we've accepted the situation for what it is, but it's not very positive. English is actually a negative language. Like it's written in the negative, so we have to do things to make it sound more positive. However, in Ukrainian, they have an expression, "Nechai bude tak," let it be so. And the first time I heard this expression, I remember just feeling so at peace. And I was like, wow, that is I like that expression a lot better than it is what it is. There's no hope in that expression. But then through learning Ukrainian, learning those expressions like "Nechai bude tak," "Visa bude dobre," or "Visa bude Ukraini," we're able to learn that, there's a certain peace that comes with acceptance, and it's going to be okay no matter what. The next point, reestablish new and healthier thinking and speaking habits. Now, this is where we're going to get into the reset, okay? So in that previous example I used about the new expressions from Ukrainian, I use it both in Ukrainian and now I use it in English as well. We get a tremendous opportunity for growth and to reestablish healthier thought patterns and verbal expressions. So when you're working with your students and you speak another language other than English, introduce phrases that you have that are that have hope, that have a more optimistic outlook, and then play with it. How does it translate into English? How does it translate into Ukrainian or Russian if they're from the eastern part of the country? Like figure out so that they can start applying that to their native language. And this is something that's also really interesting. So our brains, it looks like a big sloppy mess of noodles up there. Well, those grooves that you see in the brain, those are neural pathways. And the deeper those pathways are, the more ingrained that habit, thought pattern, you name it, is ingrained in the human psyche and in the nervous system. So when we learn a new language, not only do we reestablish healthier thinking and speaking habits, but we're creating new neural pathways in our brain. And by doing that, and by having them focus on the new pathways that they're building, those old pathways will eventually phase out and they won't have the negative power over their thinking that they used to have. And then finally, reestablishing healthier verbal and written expression. I highly encourage you with your students, not only get them speaking in English, but have them writing these expressions like "Nechai bude tak" or "Vise bude dobre." Helps the students, having them write out new expressions in English. You have a multi-sensory approach. You have the writing, which is physical. That neural pathway just got a little bit deeper. Then they're visually seeing that expression. Oh, the pathway just got a little deeper. Then they're speaking it. Now it's really reinforced. So you have four different things happening: written, verbal, visual, and auditory, all working together to reestablish new pathways in the brain. My favorite expression to express love, like in English, we don't really say like love of my heart or my eternal love, maybe in like poetry from the Victorian age, but you don't see that nowadays. However, in Scots Gaelic, which is the language of my ancestors, we say Gra mo Cree, or my eternal love, Mobun Gale. And so by learning the translations of those, we get a chance to really learn how to express love and other positive emotions in different ways. One such activity that we did, and I can show this later on, was for St. Patrick's. I think it was for St. Patrick's Day. No, Valentine's Day, I'm sorry. We talked about how to use Gaelic in written expressions and spoken expressions. And so the students, they learned a little bit of Gaelic that day. And it was funny to watch because it doesn't sound like any other language that they're used to. It doesn't sound like a Latin language or a Slavic language. It's in a class by itself. However, it was really sweet because then they were writing expressions and expressing emotions that are very intimate and very intense sometimes, but they were learning how to do it in such a way that it enhanced not just their English speaking, but even their native speaking as well, native language speaking as well. Okay, so resetting our speaking and our mindset. This is a huge capstone, if you will, cornerstone in building resilience. We have a lot of unhealthy statements like something is wrong, I'm struggling, or I'm struggling, something must be wrong, I will always be traumatized. If I don't dress nicely, then no one's going to like me. The task is too big. I'm so overwhelmed. Okay. You know, those thoughts do cross our students' minds. Maybe it's crossed yours. However, what we have a chance to do with our students is learn how to make healthy statements. So an activity that you can do with them is learn how to reframe these unhealthy statements. And what you can do is, like, you know, go to Chat GPT. It's a great resource, and have it list, like, you know, hypothetical unhealthy statements about self-image or unhealthy statements about school, and then have the students transform them into healthy statements. So this first one, okay, I'm struggling, but struggling is normal. And actually, I'm gonna change this a little bit and add and healthy, because it is, you know, struggle is a part of life, and a little bit of struggle is actually healthy. That's how we grow. Yes, trauma is a part of me right now, but I can still live my life and heal. So when you see in these first two statements, we are validating the reality. Struggling is hard. Trauma is a part of my life, unfortunately, right now. However, there's hope on the back end of that statement. And building resilience, this is like a really great tool that I actually came up with for myself when I had to start, you know, really overturning my own mindset. I had to sit down and write out all these unhealthy thought patterns and then begin to transform them into healthier statements, which really did wonders for my own healing. And this is something that, you know, your students can use as well. And it's a great skill because you're teaching awareness, and then you're also teaching transformation of those thoughts. This is something that our students will deal with, whether they're in peacetime or difficult times. If I don't dress nicely, then no one's going to like me. Students, you know, they understand, you know, there's power in being accepted by your social group. So over here, we have the flip side. I am a worthwhile person. You're affirming who you are. You're affirming the value. I will dress in a way that is comfortable for me. That's a confidence builder for your students. Okay. The task is too big for me. I'm so overwhelmed. How often have we gotten into situations where we're like, oh, I bit off more than I can chew, right? Well, we have to recognize the task for what it is. The task, this is a big task, but now let's get practical. Let's break this down into smaller pieces so I won't become so overwhelmed. Or how about let's make a plan so that I can get all my tasks done. Before I go on, are there any questions or anything that you'd like clarification on before I move on?
No, it was quite interesting about reframing, right? I think it's important. It's a great tool, but it's important to make it a habit, right? Like to
Yes.
always keep that focus, you know, like not to focus on negative things, but like remembering, okay, yeah, it is difficult. I am struggling, but I can do this, like, or yeah, just learn to paraphrase it for yourself.
Exactly. And you know, this is a tool that even we as adults could also use for ourselves as well. So when I started teaching resilience at the onset of the war, I realized I needed to practice this stuff. I don't like giving something that I'm not using, or telling people to do something that I'm not practicing. So as I watched my students transform, I got the good fortune of transforming with them. And now they all graduated. They all graduated this year. So it was really neat to see them employ those as well, you know, throughout the last 2 years, and to watch them grow. So yes, as you're teaching this, challenge yourselves a little bit, practice the tools along with them as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good skill for not just to teach students, but definitely apply in our own lives.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And what's
also,
really
I'd
neat
like
is
to,
that
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Yelena.
Yeah, I also wanted to add, it's one of these things which can be like taught gradually. I mean, people can accept it into their lives gradually. It's not something that you are telling people to do. Like, you absolutely do this because this is the right way of thinking. Okay, sure, you can advise that it will help them, but it's not like how they say, like overbearing. So I really like these kind of practices that you're trying to share with people more so as advices, and somebody will not maybe be able to accept it as well as somebody else, but that's quite fine if that's their level of comfort. It's just something that you're sharing with them to accept in the way they are comfortable with it. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's like the hallmark of being a teacher. It's you present, so like in Montessori, we present the options and then the student decides what they're going to do with that option. And so I like how you frame that. It's not meant to be overbearing. It's not meant like this is the only way. It's really meant to be like, this is a tool, try it. If it doesn't work for you, let's try to find something else. So really building a toolbox. And the nice thing with resilience, building in these exercises, it doesn't have to be so intense. That last activity where about like the associations, that can be a little intense for sure. I suggest doing something like that after you've built a rapport with the students. They've learned to trust you, you trust them. There's that mutual trust and respect built up. Because when we talk about our innermost thoughts, that's really vulnerable information. Even if they're just hypothetical, when they give those answers back, they're going to be letting you in on what they think. So to be sensitive towards that, I would suggest doing something like that later on. When you like I said, when you've built a rapport and you've had that same group. The group that I had 2 years ago, I had been coaching them for Olympiad. I had been they were speaking clubs like the year before, like for like the 2 years before. So like they already knew me. We were all on the same chat group with the teacher and everything like that. So that's why I was able to do what I did. They had an established rapport. So with that one, for sure, when we get into more creative activities, you can have a lot of fun with those and do those at any moment. So opportunity. So despite the hardship, danger, and uncertain circumstances, we do have a tremendous opportunity for growth. And you'll hear me repeat that a lot because it is a tremendous opportunity for growth. Just because it's hard, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean something bad is going on. So it's not just for the students, but even educators and citizens. So yes, the reality is that their brains are developing in the context of a deeply traumatic event. However, the opportunity is in how we teach. So let me emphasize how we teach our students how to think and speak and frame their experience in such a way that they are able to grow through this experience while teaching a second language or even teaching in Ukrainian. We can use the second language to retrain their brains on how to think and speak about resilience. It's harder with adults. It's possible. It's harder because we tend to get established in our ways. But with the students, because there's still that neuroplasticity that they have, that flexibility, it's a lot easier to redirect them in a much healthier way. Okay. So before we move on, remember, to overcome trauma and build resilience, we need comfort, care, validation, consistency, structure, and predictability. Validation. Most people have a hard time healing from trauma because their experiences are not being validated. They're being dismissed in some way, shape, or form. So how can we validate them as volunteers? We do not need to start our sessions off with, yes, we're going through, no, you don't have to do that. But let's say we do a Mentimeter and you see the temperature of the room, of the mood check, and you're like, whoa, there's some anger there today, you know, like people aren't really feeling good. You can validate that. Well, you know what? I can sense that, you know, today is kind of a gloomy day, but you know what? Let's do what we can to get through this. You know, that's a very easy way to validate and protect the vulnerability that they're feeling at the same time. Consistency. Okay. Learning a second language may be the only chance that they have to experience any kind of consistency. So, as teachers, consistency can look like starting the session off the same way. Do a mood check in, English warm up, discussion, wrap up. As teachers, we tend to get bored in that routine, but for the students, you're giving them that internal discipline that they need and that consistency. So if they have something that they know they can rely on, that's going to help them mitigate the effects of trauma more than, well, we're going to start our session off this way, then do this, and it's all over the place. Structure and predictability. Language, our rules generally don't change. I don't think any English rules have changed since 449 AD. Our vocabulary changes, but the confusing rules of English haven't. I don't think the rules of Ukrainian have changed that much, or Spanish, or what your home language may be. So it's nice to know that they have something to fall back on. They can predict it. And then, you know, learning language, it's structure. You know, it's structured thinking, and that gives them that, and it gives them some kind of foundation to build off of. Okay, so real quick with sociocultural theory, and then I want to get into the activities. This is by Lev Vygotsky, and basically there are three different components that go into this. Okay, maximizing cultural specific tools, private speech, and zone of proximal development. I want to focus on maximizing cultural specific tools, and this is where we as Go Global volunteers can really service our students. Okay, culture is extremely important to I mean, I would say it's important to everyone, but more specifically for our students, the culture, the food, the music, the storytelling, the poems is deeply cherished by Ukrainian students. They love it. And they really embrace that. So here we can leverage these tools that they are accustomed to using to reinforce. That's another form of validation for them. Okay. Right now, like, war is more than just bombs and landmines and air raids. It is also a propaganda war. Okay. And this is actually how my character, Rockabilly Rosie, came into being, because I knew they were going to get hit from all sides, from all different countries and everything. And they needed to remember that there's support no matter where they go. And so she wears the blue and yellow flowers, you know, and you know, she had a shashka that she would fight the evil orcs with and everything like that. But it was a form of cultural validation, and then we would talk about it and everything. But there's cultural signs and symbols. And Danielle, I see your hand. I'll get to you after I talk about this. You can, you know, talk about the Truzub, talk about the origins of the Truzub. It's actually very interesting. I didn't realize it was connected to my early ancestors, the Vikings and everything. Talk about Taras Shevchenko. Use things like Mentimeter and Kahoot. Like, those are all tools that they're accustomed to using. Daniel?
Yes, like it's like one question, maybe talking
Mhm,
about cultural specific tools.
mhm.
For example, the language, as I understood, is different, like the Russia's name and Ukrainian names. So like, is important like to make focus on that difference. Like, is not, for example, not Kiev, is Kiev, something like
Mhm.
that. Is that important? Like to reinforce?
Yeah, like learning how to say the names. Like, I grew up believing that you were supposed to say Kiev as well until I was corrected many times. But it's like, think about it, like, you know, being from Colombia, let's say, you know, like every year in I forget the name of the city, but there's the big salsa um
Oh yeah,
festival.
in Cali.
Cali, yes, in Cali, right? So there's a huge salsa festival, and someone comes in, and you know, there's a big difference between salsa and mambo, right? And someone, or like, let's do salsa and bachata instead of salsa and mambo, right? And someone comes in like, yeah, there's gonna be bachata. And like for the Colombian people, like, no, this is not bachata. This is salsa. Like that is a dance that, you know, that's, you know, that Colombians cherish, you know. It's like, wait, or if someone came in and was like, no, it's mambo. Oh, whoa, there's a big difference between mambo and salsa, huge, between the music and even how the dance is danced, the style of it, the intimacy of it. So for someone to come in and constantly reinforce the opposite of what it means, it would be pretty offensive to the Colombians, right? So it's the same thing with Ukrainians. To say Kiev at this point, it almost is like I would say, and Alina, correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost seems like they're poking the bear a little bit to kind of like, and it's almost antagonistic to say Kiev nowadays. And you know, to say Kiev, like they're trying to, like, it's a reclaiming of their culture. When your culture has been under attack for so long, and maybe you get a decade of breathing room, and then suddenly it's under threat again, and then you fight it off, and then you finally get some breathing room, and then someone tries to take it away again, and they're doing things like trying to repronounce the names and everything like that. You do want to reinforce the Ukrainian pronunciation of it, or the deeper meaning of those things. Does that make sense, Danielle?
Yeah, that sounds good for me. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. So yes. So always remembering language is social. Okay. We need it to reinforce and master the language. We need to talk. So building resilience too, we need to remember, is also social. Speaking clubs are not just for teaching English and giving presentations on our cultures and all these other things. It's creating support. I have the good fortune of leading a speaking club in Austin, where I live, and it's for refugees from Ukraine. And it was interesting because the speaking club became more than just me teaching about present simple, past perfect, and what this topic going to be. It became a support group. We had, you know, new refugees coming in and out, and the reason why they're all overcoming the challenges of having to leave their homeland before they wanted to, or if they wanted to at all, settling in a new country, and it's Texas, the hottest state on the planet, um of all places. They had each other to come to every Tuesday and Thursday. You know, they had that predictable thing, that thing that they could count on. They could count on seeing each other, and we were watching everyone grow, move on, and find jobs. We were congratulating one another, opening up about our struggles and everything. So these speaking clubs, it is more than just speaking and speaking about different topics. It's connection. And to heal from trauma and to build resilience, you need connection. It cannot be done in isolation. So, if you've ever done like a Kahoot mood check or anything like that, what I noticed was, like, when I first started doing these, I was like, what's the point? Because we would do it and then just move on. And I was like, and I like to be practical. I don't like to waste my time doing things that have no practical sense or anything like that. So I started realizing that the Kahoot mood check-in, even the Padlet check-in, which we're gonna do a Padlet instead of a Kahoot today, it establishes routine, order, and predictability. Like if you can establish a routine with your groups, let this be like the first thing they do. And they'll expect that every time. And that will give them that consistency they need. It also going to take the temperature of the room. Okay, so if you get a lot of like happy, motivated students, then, that is great. If it's really cold and you've got a lot of like, sad faces, angry faces, you're going to be seeing maybe there's like lack of motivation, maybe apathetic and depressed, and then you're going to know how to approach your students for that day. Yes, Danielle.
Yeah, like a question just about like the Kahoot is like for knowing like the feelings of the students, like to know how are they feeling before the class.
Yes, yeah. So it doesn't give their personal information away. There's a section where you can do like a poll. So there's like options for like quiz, a poll, open-ended questions, choose poll. And then, you can make it whatever to show what I used to. But yeah, that's like what I thought about it, because it's like personal information when we do them. And
Your connection is a bit laggy. Or it's my internet?
no, it's probably connection. It's really hot in Texas, right? Like 7 degrees today. It's like it's get up to 35 centigrade today. Away. Other things.
Oh, we can't hear you clearly.
Rosemary, it's Vinod from South Africa. Somehow you are breaking. It was going very smoothly, but it looks like there is like giddy, 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 giddy kind of sound.
Rosie, let's check now.
I'm sorry, wait till again. Yeah, you haven't missed anything.
Oh, still not good.
So maybe sometimes it helps when my connection is not the best to try to turn off your video and speak without the video, Rosemary, if it's okay for you just to try, because then it takes off some of the stress off of the connection.
Yeah,
if it's like no video, just audio. So maybe try it that way. Yeah.
Let's try now.
How does that work?
Oh yeah, it's better. We can hear you better.
Okay.
It's much better now. It's much better without the video.
Okay. So here we go. I'm going to share the screen again. And so I'm just going to do this as an example. We're not going to participate in it because I'm kind of running out of time. But let me go to my library. Okay. So
oh, I love it that it's in Ukrainian as well. It's in both languages.
Yes.
Ukrainian national
Як
team.
у вас сьогодні настрій? How's your mood?
You're gonna win the Euros. I hope that.
I don't know.
It's hard, but I hope that.
What I ended up doing, oh no, it's not gonna let me show it. Okay. Yeah, let me go to edit. There we go. That's better. Yeah, so basically one way to help my learn Ukrainian is that I do write everything bilingually for the students to help them make the connection. So if you do know Ukrainian or you speak it, like by all means, try to do it bilingually. If not, that's okay too. Immersion never hurt anyone. But this is the poll that I had everyone take, yeah, який у вас сьогодні настрій? So the first one was, готові до роботи, ready to work, сумно, sad. Я не хочу працювати, I don't want to work. Нам сьогодні працювати, like, oh, we need to work today. So it's a fun way, to see where the students are at, but it doesn't have to be so intense, okay? We don't have to get so deeply therapeutic about the thing in order to reach our students, if that makes sense. So Danielle, to ask your question, this is how I did it. And I put the Ukrainian soccer team because when I made this, that's when they won, I think, like nationals, or they won a world championship or something like that. So these are also little things when it goes back to cultural specific tools. Here, you see like the Ukrainian flag. I use the Ukrainian soccer team to validate that win that they had and everything. So it's all those little subtle things, right, that we do to really validate our students and validate their culture. And if you teach students from other cultures, use what they have, show that you're happy to teach and be a part of their culture. They really love that kind of stuff. I'm going to stop the share there. So with that, that's one way you can use the Kahoot, okay? And then you're also incorporating all those cultural specific tools that are at your disposal to help validate the students and where they're at and everything like that. All right, so we are going to go on to, so of course, students want to have fun and they like to be creative, and storytelling is a very vital part in overcoming trauma. Okay, that is basically what history is. It is the written story of a people. And so in order for students to overcome their traumas, sometimes creating an alter ego can actually help them separate themselves from the trauma a little bit and employ other positive aspects. So I'm going to play a short little video, and this is an introduction to Rockabilly Rosie. She was created when the war began. I thought it was the craziest idea to bring her to life. It was just based on a short story that I was writing. And I'm really happy that I did, because I do believe in a way Rockabilly Rosie helped me. And by dressing like Rockabilly Rosie on a regular basis, doing her makeup and hair, and consistently putting out content in that character, actually transformed the way I saw myself, the way I approached people, the way I dressed. And now I'm a much more confident person than I was even 5 years ago when I began volunteering at Go Global. So without further ado, this is Rockabilly Rosie.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. Praise the glad right now. Join me.
Well, howdy, it's Rockabilly Rosie. Yours truly is showing up in Smela for this session of Go Camp, and I am so mighty excited to be working with y'all. Now, I've been hearing there's been a lot of gray skies hovering over Ukraine, but don't you all fret, okay? Because anytime there's some gray, there's always a patch of blue sky to see you through. And I know that we've been seeing a lot of rainbows, hawks, and other beautiful signs showing us that Ukraine is gonna be victorious. So I tell you what, we're going to end this year on a really high note and a really positive one too. And we're going to remember that we are all mutually beautiful people, especially all y'all over there in Ukraine. And I can't wait to work with each and every one of you for the next 3 weeks. You take care, y'all.
All right, so
Amazing. Is it like a southern accent?
yeah, it's a southern accent. It's what's called a blanket southern accent. So Louisiana, we don't understand them whatsoever. Texans sound like they have a bunch of like molasses in their mouth, like a bunch of like gum and taffy. This is just like your Southern Belle and everything. But Rockabilly Rosie came up with a tagline that you'll see a lot in my presentations. And she always tells her students, Rockabilly Rosie loves y'all. She's praying for you and she's mighty proud of you. And she kind of became synonymous with Go Global for a minute. And she was really only for Go Global. I haven't really done this character for anyone else or anything. You know, hope maybe she will branch out. I don't know. But storytelling is older than time itself. Children are telling stories all the time. And but at some point we stop telling stories and we stop imagining. And sometimes the stories we're telling ourselves, like my life is never going to improve, or I've been through all this and there's no hope for me. Unfortunately, that is a story. And it's not a very positive one. And so we want our students to create positive stories. So we create an alter ego. So creating an alter ego like this Rockabilly Rosie, it gives us a chance to explore personality traits we have put on the shelf, or that we've forgotten about, or maybe we are too afraid to put on display. And they usually say that one thing you're afraid to do is the thing you need to do the most, and that's the thing that will change your life. And putting Rockabilly Rosie out was one of the scariest things that I ever did. I thought it would either be ignored or just completely dismissed, and instead it exploded and it became a thing. So when you talk about doing alter egos, you don't have to go as far as I did. Okay. That's my theatrical background coming out. However, this activity does create a reflection on you or your students' positive qualities, okay? Talking about what makes a hero, what makes a villain, you know, helping them see that contrast. What path do you want to take? We may not have the superpowers of the Hulk or Captain America or Iron Man, but we can be a hero in our own way by being kind, by being generous, the little things in life. So so encourage them to think about how they can emulate their alter ego on a daily basis. Now, the biggest point of validation for me with Rockabilly Rosie was when we did this activity. One of my Go campers, she wanted to do something similar, and I said, what can you do every day to emulate that character? And this student, her name is Anya, she was like, you know what, I could do my hair different. I've always wanted to do my hair differently. And she did the next day, and she did it Rockabilly style, which really made me happy. Very selfishly happy. However, she noticed a change, and she started to feel a little bit better about herself, and she started to like find more confidence in herself. So these are some questions that you can ask your students when developing a character. Have them come up with a name. It doesn't have to be practical. It doesn't even have to be real. Just let them explore positive qualities. Have them start with 3. You know, don't let them get too overwhelmed. 3's a good foundation to start. Do they have superpowers? Rockabilly Rosie's superpower is that when she wields the shashka, she can destroy orcs and make them vaporize. Can they teleport? Maybe read the minds of other people? What color hair and eyes do they have? Like, I was dyeing my hair red a lot at the time, so she always had red hair. Are they from planet Earth or another galaxy? Rockabilly Rosie is not from the planet Earth. She's from the Orion constellation. What is their backstory? What are their origins? They need an origin story. They need that starting point, and then as they write their story, they'll have a place to make an arc so that they have somewhere to go. Do they have a personal dream that they'd like to achieve? For the students, if they get that deep into it, they're going to find out what they really want to do with their lives. And once again, that could be the catalyst to changing their life for the better. When I did this activity with my students from Kremenchuk, we had one student, God bless him, he wanted to be salo man. So his dream was to make all the salo for Ukraine. He was like, I'm running a pig farm after I graduate, and I'm going to make salo for all of Ukraine. I'm going to save it. Like, he was passionate, and his teachers were like, but you're so good at computers. Don't you want to go to university? And he's like, no, I'm saving the salo. So, but you get a window into what their personal passions are, and then you can build on that. And then, you know, some more reflection questions. How much of it was based on yourself? Do you like who you created? What can you do in your daily life? This is where we can get very practical with our students and really help them apply those tools. And I'm a big fan of applying those tools. How can this character help you in life? So like with Rockabilly Rosie, she helped me stand a little bit taller, speak a little bit stronger and with more confidence. I started taking more pride in my appearance. And I started looking at other possibilities in life instead of limiting myself, thanks to Rockabilly Rosie. How can they help you find more joy? What positive qualities do you and your alter ego have in common? But how are they different? You know, have them explore those differences and everything. So all of this will not only help them build resilience, and these are fun, creative tools that they can use, but they also help build emotional intelligence. So we got a lot going on here. So how is this helping build emotional intelligence? First of all, they're building vocabulary, okay? Emotional intelligence, it's more than just awareness. It's also having that vocabulary and that ability to express emotions and express your thoughts and communicate effectively. If you look at a 3-year-old who is nonverbal versus the 3-year-old who's very verbal, the one who's nonverbal is more likely to have tantrums and act out when they're frustrated versus the 3-year-old who they may not be able to express completely in words, but they still have enough where they can say, like, I'm angry or I can't do this. You know, they can at least say something versus the nonverbal child. So emotional expression, but also self-awareness as well. It's going to build those two. And then we also have creative and emotional expressions, developing all of the internal tools that they need. So by discussing these creative projects and vocabulary building, we're encouraging creativity along with increasing the range of emotional expression and doing like something like the alter ego activity. That's going to really expand the range of emotional expression. And the more ways they can express their emotions, whether it's through music, poetry, writing, creating alter egos, the greater chance they have to build the resilience, reinforce it, and move forward in life. And they are also afforded the opportunity to discover their communication style through learning a second language, because now they're not so emotionally attached and they have that freedom to explore and they're not being pulled back. Any questions?
I have no questions. I just wanted to ask maybe about Padlet. How do you do like a mood check on Padlet?
Yes, we're going to get to that right now, actually. Yes, so I'm going to log in right now. Oh, it's already logged in for me, Rosie. So I'm gonna send you a link.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick. Oh wait. So with Padlet, I discovered this this year, that they have this beautiful thing called AI, and it helps you draw.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the greatest artist, so I love AI art because it helps me draw things that I am not able to draw. And you can use this as a form of artistic expression. You can use it to help them. You can even use it as assessment, because AI it's smart, but it's not that smart, and you still need to communicate effectively with it in order to get it to do what you want it to do. So in the chat, I'm going to send you the link.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yes, so basically what I wrote was super excited in the AI. Now, if you want to make this, watch carefully. You go down here to the plus sign, and then click the plus 12. And there's a option that says, I can't draw. I want you to click on that. And then what you're going to do on the Padlet is you're just going to write some words that describe your mood. So you can write happy and joyful, press enter, let AI do what it needs to do. It sometimes takes a minute. And you're going to have some options. Okay, there's no wrong options, and students sometimes they still get stuck in that, okay, am I right or I'm wrong? Express to them, emphasize, there's no right or wrong. Oh, someone's sleepy. And then if you really want to get into it, you can also describe your mood. So I just put a couple of words, describing like deeply grateful. So as everyone are making their Padlets right now, ooh, excited. Oh, very nice. These remind me of the streets of like Italy.
Mm.
Yeah, and another way to do it, you just gave me an idea. The iPhone, I don't know which iPhone this is, but I saw like a dancing man in the chat. That's another easy way to do like a mood check-in. It'll give you an idea. Students, that we have, they're very tech savvy. They understand how to communicate with emojis. I think I once had a conversation with a student only in emojis, and you can communicate your point. Ooh, this is pretty. Dreaming and thinking of a whimsical place. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, some of us, our minds may be elsewhere. So as everyone's doing their Padlets, I'd like to open up the floor as well for any extra questions that you may have. And once we're done with our session, I'll post on our community chat the link to this so people can see the gallery. And I'll make sure that editing is closed. Well, actually, no, I'll leave it open so that way more people can contribute if they want.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
All right, someone's super focused.
So I wanted to comment on mine, actually, because there was something you said, Rosie, which kind of inspired me. So it's more of a comment than a question. But yeah, I submitted this one, the dreamy, whimsical place, whatever I titled it. That's because I was thinking, like, throughout this workshop and like our conversation you're presenting, a lot of ideas were coming to my mind because I obviously have some already from my previous experience working with kids and so on, but it's like so nice. Like you never, it's not that you always have to hear something like spectacular and new from someone, but you can have like new information on some of the approaches you were already considering anyway. And on all of these ideas which were coming to me before. Again, through my experience, but also just like randomly being creative, and with your experiences and your examples of how you did it, it just like my mind like started creating all of these like cute little games or cute little ideas which could be converted into games which have like specific meaning, specific, not really agenda, but I mean they're trying to achieve something within their context. So that's why I like created this like a tagline of being dreamy and whimsical and inspiring, and it gave me this this little cute place.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that, Yelena. And I'm happy that it started fueling. Sometimes we need like that sign or that little point of validation to kind of push us forward into doing some of these activities that we've been dreaming of and everything. So yeah, I absolutely love it. Any other comments?
I think it was very productive.
Good. I'm happy about that. Good. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Oh, I wanted to say that your suggestions, like how the kids can express themselves, maybe it's a good idea for those who are a bit shy. Maybe just ask them to use emojis to put in the chat, like also a quick way. Yeah, we don't go to Padlet, but just like, how do you feel today? And usually they're like quiet, but like ask them to like pick the emoji that describes their mood best. I think it's a nice idea.
And yeah, and like with the shyer kids, there's always a greater reluctance to speak. And I think too, like a lot of it, and these are comments that students have said, you know, they want to speak English correctly, they want to be understood, and they want to do it right. As a multi-language learner myself, I feel the same way. Like I get very shy when I want to speak Ukrainian. I have a coworker who's from Ukraine, and I'm actually really nervous to speak it with her because I understand how important the language is and how important it is to speak it right. And I'm still getting used to the stresses and accents and syllables and pronunciations. And so I tend to freeze up a little bit. So yeah, like with this, especially when we talk about emotions and then you're doing it in a second language that you really want to do justice to, that's hard. You know, that can really cause a lot of anxiety. So I'm thank you, Alina, for bringing that up. That, you know, the emojis, you know, they're going to feel safe with that. They know emojis, they know how to do that. And then here with Padlet, they don't have to give out their name. They can, you know, type in as anonymous. So that protects their privacy a little bit, and then they can just do what they need to do and back away. So yeah, very good.
And I have another question, you know, like how can we encourage those kids who are shy and afraid to speak up because they feel that their grammar is not perfect, they might make mistakes. So how do you encourage the communication and make them feel empowered and understand, or not understand, but like prove that it's okay, right? Like making mistakes is a part of journey, right? As long as the other person can understand you, that has to be the goal, right?
Yeah. What I usually do for the first few sessions when they're getting to know me, I will show them my human side. So usually as teachers, you know, we want to be the authority, we've got it all under control. A few things that I do is that I first start relating to them. So thankfully, you know, being a part of the Ukrainian community and learning the language, as a teacher, I at least have that to my advantage. And then I also tell them, hey guys, I'm learning a language. I'm learning your language. And then they give me that look like, seriousno? And I'm like, yeah, seriously, I'm learning this, guys. It's okay. I'm like, I'm making mistakes. So like I've learned to put myself out there and kind of fall in my face in front of them to let them know like, hey, it's okay to make mistakes, but we're going to learn from them. And I also tell them, I want you to make mistakes. And I do, because then I get to figure out where they need the most support. So if they're not making those mistakes, I can't figure out how to support them. That makes it very difficult. So I tell them like, please, because now I can help you. And that's what I want to do. So I create a very forgiving tone, if you will, right off the bat. And that helps the ones who are a little bit more shy to come out and speak, and let them know that like, hey, it's okay. Like, I don't speak, like, I'm trying to speak Ukrainian properly, but I make my mistakes. And then one thing I do, this takes a little bit of extra effort, is that a lot of my TikToks are bilingual. And so, and I push that out to the kids so that they can see like, hey, you're learning English, I'm doing my part and learning my targeted languages. We're in this together. And so once again, that builds rapport, but only do something like that if you have the time and if that's something that is within your skill set as well. So
You should share your TikTok with us.
okay. I'll share. Actually, I will.
Is it possible for you maybe to share presentation in the chat? I think it was very like insightful, lots of like useful information.
Let me go back to Canva real quick. And then I will post a 100-day learning. So my students, my speaking club, oops, wrong one. That I have in Austin, they have to learn 100 words, 100 new words in English by the time we meet back in so we're gonna meet back up in August to learn 100 new English words. And then I realized I need to learn 100 new Ukrainian. So
it's getting
video
again. We couldn't hear you. They need to learn 100 words for which period of time?
Between the beginning, so we departed in June, so it was at the beginning of this month till August 20th. They have to learn 100 new English words. So I shared the Canva presentation.
Amazing.
So if you want to go back and take those notes, but I did the video in Ukrainian. So let me see if I can pull it up without the video cutting out, because I know if I have too many links up, it gets a little moody with me. Let me close out of that.
I think you need to like open the access, because right now it's like closed.
Yeah, I'll put the TikTok that I did, I'll put that one in the in our Telegram, so you can see.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
So but yeah, other than that, does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I have one more question. Like so you were saying it's all about like showing that you were also like showing your personality, right? So the kids can relate. But if it's like a one-time workshop, like how do you build that rapport in a short time?
Oh, that's a tough one. So really, like, what it does is it all comes down to like your introduction. Like, you have to hook your audience. You get, I think, about less than 2 minutes to really hook your audience. So that's where in your presentation, that's where you can include things. So instead of giving this huge like monologue of your autobiography, it's, hi, my name is Rosie. I'm going to be your English teacher today. Fun fact, I'm learning Ukrainian. So guess what? When I try to speak Ukrainian with my friends, I get nervous, and you may get nervous about speaking English. That's okay. We are in this together. So I encourage you to speak. And if you can't, that's okay. If you can, please give it to me and then move on. So if you give them the option, or even let them know that it's okay if they can't participate, sometimes just having the option kind of like makes them go, oh, okay, you know what, I am going to try to speak. You know, if you make it not okay to not participate, they're going to resist even more and not speak. So if you kind of like go, yeah, it's okay if you can't, it's fine, then they're like, oh, okay, and they sort of relax a little bit because you just took that pressure away from them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take the pressure away from them, then they're more likely to at least try. And you may be surprised, like the ones who you think are just going to be quiet, you won't be able to get them to stop, but it's because you let it be okay. You let it, you know, you let it be so, and you took the pressure off of them.
Mm-hmm. So it's about creating that safe space where the kids like feel they are not being pressured into doing something they don't want to, right? So that
Absolutely
gives more freedom to actually participate in.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, when we feel pressured, we're more likely to resist, because then our nervous system goes into fight or flight. It's a mild fight or flight, but it's still there. So then when we take that pressure off, then it's like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
I would also have to agree with that, because I remember even on some projects where I would literally tell the kids, like, they know I'm not the teacher, like the actual teacher who teaches in a school. I'm just a volunteer on a project who's doing an activity with them. But they still see you like as this kind of high authority of I don't know what. And not necessarily, they're not necessarily scared of you, but they try to behave in a way they would behave in their classes, like in school, as in like try to keep quiet, only listen to me, never speak, blah blah. And that's not the environment I was envisioning or the one I need for the activity. So I would always like try to quickly assess the situation and try to give them, yes, as much space, or as Rosie has said, like as many options as possible, or like the very clear option of, okay, you can participate, you don't have to participate, and stuff like that, because then it like makes them more at ease. And then they are actually more willing to, even if they were resisting in the first place. But especially like positioning yourself as a, how do I say it, just a person who is trying to talk with them, like have a fun afternoon, just a chat. Because if they strictly perceive me as a teacher, it tends to not go that well, at least in the first few minutes, because I seem like someone who is here to like judge them, score their work, or whatever it is, and it doesn't work as nicely then.
Yeah. And if you've ever watched Charlie Brown as well, students tend to sometimes behave a little bit better for the volunteers, because when you've had the same teacher every day, it becomes that wah, 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 wah voice. And here, I'm going to try to put my video on. Hopefully nothing too bad will happen. And so then when we come in, we are a new voice. We are a new voice. And suddenly the brain goes, oh goodness, something new. And we could be telling them the exact same thing their teacher has been telling them, but our brains and our bodies actually get bored. So when someone new comes in and says the exact same thing, and our parents watched it with us all the time, they would tell us to do something, and then grandma would come and tell us to do the exact same thing. Oh yes, grandma, okay, of course. It's the same thing. It wakes the brain up. It's a new voice, it's a new person, a new visual, and that also helps as well. So sometimes it's exciting.
And I have one more question, Rosie. So I think, yeah, we need to wrap up soon, but it's just, I'm curious, what do you think the effect of speaking clubs, right? So let's say it's 1 month and kids have, I don't know, 5-6 hours in total with the volunteer. Do you think it can have like a long-lasting effect on them in terms of like breaking that language barrier, you know, that the kids figure out it's okay. Yeah, I can speak with a foreigner, they can understand me, or it's gonna, you think it might be like a short-term effect. You know, it's like, okay, we practice for that like a little bit, but then once again, after we finished the speaking club, I still have that fear of approaching foreigners and being misunderstood or being afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's almost like a double-edged sword, if you will. So it depends on how they maximize the utility of the speaking club. If they only go to speaking club and they're only comfortable with the people in speaking club and they don't try to speak with people outside of it, then they're going to have problems. I shouldn't say they're going to have problems, but it'll just be more challenging, and it won't have the effects that we want speaking clubs to happen. But if they go to speaking clubs, then they're speaking to other English speakers and putting themselves out there, then you're going to see the long-term effects. So we definitely have an impact on them, both in the short term and the long term, because right now we're showing up for them in a way that they are not expecting the rest of the world to show up. You know, we have volunteers from like here I see India, Colombia. I think someone was from South Africa. You got the States. Elena, where are you located, if you don't mind me asking?
No, of course, I'm from Serbia, so it's like Central Europe, continental Europe.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we have Serbia showing up. We're just like and Berta, where are you from? I'm sorry.
Spain.
Spain, okay. So we have the whole world showing up for them in a way that they probably weren't expecting. We don't know what kind of negative propaganda their personal social media got hit with, right? So the fact that the world is showing up in a way that they didn't expect, that's going to pay off in dividends. And I tell like teachers that I'm close to over in Ukraine, I say, guys, I know you're frustrated and times are uncertain. And I say this to all of you, when we're, 10, 15 years from now, all of us, we're going to be sitting in our living rooms watching TV, and we're going to see the next crew going to Mars to set up a base or make some discovery. We may see the next world leader rise that's going to make an amazing impact, and we're all going to turn to our families and say, that was my Go Global student. So we're planting seeds right now. That's the impact we're going to have later on. So in terms of speaking, it's up to the student to maximize it. As volunteers, what we're delivering is beyond linguistics at this point. What they choose to do with English is their choice. But the emotional and the mental benefits that we give them are going to surpass. It's going to surpass just learning English or, showing up for speaking club. We're showing them how to show up no matter what. And who knows what we're all going through when we show up for these students, So, they're learning how to show up even when times are uncertain. So, and we're doing that by example. So, any other questions or comments?
I have no more questions.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments? I did deliver access to those who requested it on Canva. To view. And if you ever have any questions, reach out to me on Telegram. I'm always available. I'll also put my Instagram on here. I am known as the Mindset Language Fairy. A school in Kyiv deemed me the language fairy. So I go by several nicknames now. And so I'm going to, so if there's no more questions, thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate the discussion, the participation, and like I said, I'll share the Padlet link in our meet and greet on Telegram so people can contribute and you can see your work. And I'm going to close this session off with the infamous words of Rockabilly Rosie. So no matter what happens, always remember, y'all, Rockabilly Rosie loves you. She's praying for you, and she is mighty, mighty proud of you. You take care, y'all.
Bye
Okay,
bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Thank you so
evening.
much. Bye.
bye.
Thank you.